Great.
Awesome. I think we are live. Just give us a sec, everybody.
Yeah, I think I'm sharing that actually. Yes.
Awesome. Cool. So welcome. I think there's a few people watching. Say hello in the comment section if you're watching. So I am jumping on my live interview series called Empowered Love. And this is episode 6. And today we are speaking with the lovely Zoe. So Zoe is a sexuality coach, an embodiment practitioner, a visionary, and just a badass tantric goddess who rides Harleys. And she's also the author of the best-selling book Unfuck Yourself, which I am yet to read, but with a title like that, I definitely think I need to add it to my list. Welcome, Zoe. Thank you for jumping on today. If you want to just start by just telling us a little bit more about your work, what you do, your vision, maybe your book.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Okay, thanks for having me. It's super fun to be here. I guess I will start with what I do. You asked me what I do. What I do is, as an embodiment practitioner and sexuality coach, I work mainly with women. My niche is women, and to bring them into their sensuality, their sexuality, their permission slip to fully bring themselves to the table in whatever that is, and to own their sexuality. And a lot of times it actually begins with finding their sexuality for the first time. It's not even refinding it or reclaiming it. It's actually just claiming it. Like, this is what this is actually what pleasure feels like for me. And I have a couple of main pieces right now that I really bring to the table. And one is my sensuality and sexuality portal, which is a 3 to 6 month container working with women. And the other is actually a new offering that I'm about to launch in the next few weeks, which is my business portal called the Invocatress. And it's basically bringing women into bringing their business, or like this kind of side hustle, or their hobby, or their like little piece that they wish they could make money out of, and really bringing the embodiment piece to that, and letting the way that they vibrate in the world be their business. And what tends to happen is they go from thinking, I don't know if it's worth making money, and they just literally just like, holy shit, like when I show up and really embody the message of what I'm here for, that like what I want people to receive from my gifts, and then of course the branding and the marketing and the sales and all of that becomes the embodied vision with them, it's like money just comes. It's awesome. It's so beautiful. So those are the main things that I work with: business, sensuality, sexuality, and relating.
I love that, merging the worlds.
Yeah. And it's mainly with women. I used to work quite a bit with men, but I just love being able to connect women to their permission piece. And like I said, just claim it all, take it all.
Yes, I love that. Amazing. So today we've got some juicy topics to speak into. Hello, Maria. Sorry, I'm just following the comments. That's what I want. Money just comes. Yes. Sex magic it all in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a big piece, right? Is the piece of most women, we want to give. Because we're so heart-centered. This is our positive pole. We want to give, but we have a lot of trouble receiving because we don't think we're worthy. We've been taught that we need to do to receive. We have felt unsafe in our bodies. And so it's like, this, say for instance, the yoni, the pussy, is just like, if we're doing business and it's like, I'm giving. And then someone goes, great, where do I put my money? And you're like, oh no, my legs are closed. I don't feel safe. It's like, okay, let's work through that.
Yeah, it's showing up a lot at the moment. I feel like we're deeply being initiated into the feminine, like on a collective level, right? She's been repressed for so long, and she's the receiving, right? And we live in this like hustle, this modern world of like hustle, and it's like, unless we're doing and achieving, it's like we feel so deeply unworthy. And this has been something that I've been personally journeying with really deeply over this COVID period, and really having to slow down and really having to like come back to my body and like check in like every day, like what do you need, like yeah, it's such a journey.
It is. It's a real journey. And I'm definitely not void of that in myself. You know, there's been, I'm a definite overachiever. I was taught that love comes when I prove myself and when I do way more than anyone thinks I'm capable of. And I noticed that the story that I've been playing lately is like, you know, the story of like, well, that's what I received as a child. That was bad. But noticing my inner dialogue is repeating that to myself, with myself. It's like, if you do that thing that you never thought you could do, then I will love you. Then I will love you. You know, it's just like, wow, fuck, really? That's happening again internally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually something that I'm going to speak to when at my enlightenment in the bedroom, is like, you know, this conditional love piece, right? And like learning how to just like let go of like needing to have conditions around love and just like show up in the world with an open heart. But anyway, that's like a whole nother topic that we could go into and speak about for hours, I'm sure. But we're here to speak about some juicy stuff today. And yeah, so some of the topics that we really wanted to speak about were like full body orgasms, so tantric orgasms, raising your libido, owning your sexual desires, and just like how doing all of that will really create like a really juicy relationship. So yeah, I don't know if you want to start by yeah, let's start with the full body orgasms. Like, what the hell is a full body orgasm for anyone listening or watching that has never even heard of that term before? Yeah, what do you have to share on full body orgasms?
Okay, cool. Orgasm is an energetic, like we hold energy in our bodies, right? We're just like these energetic beings cruising around. There's energy all around us and all of the things, and we hold this orgasmic energy 100% of the time. Often we'll be like, I can't, you know, I'm not a woman who, or a man. It could be, you know, either end of the spectrum, either gender, all genders actually, unable to reach this place of orgasm, what we call orgasm. And there's a confusion about what orgasm actually is on a very surface level. Let's start there actually. Orgasm is not necessarily the climax. The climax is like that peak, you know, when we're, for instance, having sex and we're like, oh God, oh yeah, here it comes, I'm not turning back. And it's like, oh yes, you know, we're like, sing to God. So that is the climax. It's like the peak, right? And without going too much into that right now, the difference between that and orgasm is orgasmic energy just moves through the body all the time. And sometimes it will feel beautifully pleasurable, and sometimes it might feel stuck. Sometimes it might feel stagnant or jolty. But what we tend to associate with orgasmic energy is like that pleasure state. Until probably maybe 6 or 8 years ago, I wasn't really aware of my orgasmic energy. I just was chasing the climax. Every time I'd have sex, I'm like, yep, I'm going to climax, then he's going to climax, and then we're going to go to sleep. That's going to be how it goes. But when I started playing with energy work and understanding more consciously, because the conscious must, you know, the masculine, the conscious gets to set the container, so we understand the thing that we're about to embody so that we can let go to that in our bodies. And so once I started to understand what orgasmic energy was and realizing that it's simply sensation, it's just sensation. So then I opened myself up to like, okay, cool. If I take a deep breath right now, yeah, I notice a sensation in my body, and it's like all along the back side of my body, the back of my arms, and right down the back of my legs. And it's a tingling, it's a little vibration, it's like little electric shocks, you know, just like lightly tickling my body. And it's like, oh, okay, that's orgasm. That's orgasmic energy. And so something that really was memorable for me was driving in the car one day, and I'd moved to the coast, and I was just driving in my car one day, stopped at the lights, and I just became present with my body, and I started to breathe, and I was like, holy fuck, I'm actually like, my whole body is in orgasm right now. And it's not like we're going, oh, you know, like, oh yes, more. It's just like, okay, there's ripples, you know, and it feels like I'm an ocean of sparkles right now. My whole body is feeling the sensation. And so when we talk about orgasmic energy, this is just the sensation inside of our body, and it's something that we can feel right now. Like, speaking to you right now, I am having so much orgasmic energy running through my body. So I could be like, cool, you know, it's so cool what I do for a living as a sex coach and embodiment practitioner. People are like, what do you do all day? Well, I basically just have orgasms and talk about sex all day. It's like, wow, okay. And so
yeah, but so many people don't have like access. Sorry, I think there's a bit of a delay. So many people, you know, don't have access to that that energy in such as because they've just been numbing out for so long that they're so disconnected from that sensory experience of their body, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, the masculine and feminine inside of us is so important in when we talk about pleasure, because the masculine allows us, or the masculine sets up a container and goes, hey, like, for instance, you need to make time to be with yourself, or you need to have a practice that you can anchor into, or you need to have an understanding, because the masculine is, you know, more consciousness based. You need to have an understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve, right? So the goal as such, the end goal. And then the feminine, the body, can come in and go, okay, cool, the masculine set the rules in the container, and then we can feel, like, the body can just feel inside of that and know that it is safe, because the masculine has set that up. You know, we've set aside that time, or whatever the container is, and then the body can start to feel. And unless we have the balance of masculine and feminine, just through consciousness and through, you know, form or flow in the body, the ability to feel, then real orgasmic pleasure, I think, is a little bit of a, like, you know, it's like over there, it's not in here, you know. It's quite hard to feel it if we don't allow ourselves to feel safe. Orgasm, you know, we might be chasing a climax, that's one thing, but the real pleasure that comes with intimacy is, I mean, intimacy itself is a pleasure, but in that pleasure field of self-pleasure or having sex with somebody, can we let go of the stress? Can we let go of the need to chase the end goal? Can we actually just be here with the energy, whether it's with another person or ourselves? Can we be here with the energy that's just vibrating through our bodies, and just feel that and know that that's enough? Because as a you know, someone who works with energy and sexuality, this is actually what I talk to people who come to me for business advice with sometimes. It's like, because I take them into this practice where they drop into their bodies and they start to feel. And then the amazing thing is, and this is magic, essentially, something the mind doesn't understand, but it just is that the body then responds with messages or questions or answers. And so it's like, for instance, this morning I was on a business call, and, you know, the woman I was working with, she was like quite uncertain. She's like kicked so many goals in the last few weeks we've been working together, and then she's like, now where to? Like, so it's like, cool, let's drop into the body, let's feel the sensation, let's feel that orgasmic pleasure, and let's step into like one of those little pieces of sensation in your body. Be with that. What does that have to say about this? And it's like the body knows. The body has all of the answers that we need, but it's coming into presence, and it's coming into trust of our bodies, you know.
Why is that so hard for people?
Why is that so hard? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we, you know, in my perspective, I'll speak to why it's so hard for me. Like it's actually, it's difficult for me sometimes to find time for myself to drop into my pleasure state. And that's because we've got fucking way too much going on in our lives. Way too fucking much. Like our, you know, our systems aren't designed to hold this much stress, but we've become normalized with it. It's become the normal to be, you know, oh, what have you been up to? Oh, I've been doing this and I've been doing that. Oh, great. Oh, great. But it's like, oh, what have you been up to? I've actually just been just at home, like just kind of having hot baths and just kind of
Self-pleasuring.
self-pleasuring and then people are like, what? What? And so it's become this like conditioned response that we need them take on more, take on more. And that's something I constantly have a struggle with is like I have two kids, 12 and 9. So I'm like, we're so close and we have this beautiful, like we share time together, but I'm also the taxi and I'm also the organizer and I'm the sole, not the sole, but I'm the main provider for them. And then it's like, then I have my 3 companies and 2 businesses inside those companies. And it's like it's just an overload. And then you want a social life and then you want a sex life and a romantic relationship. And it's like, what I am really journeying through at the very moment is like, yes, I've got like about 12 different projects happening and a beautiful team of people to support me in that. But it's like, how can I just show up to those things in like how I'm really feeling rather than, like having to bring this doer energy, because the doer energy comes from the mind. And whilst we are in our minds, great, we need our minds, but it's actually the integration of the mind and the body that brings us into balance and brings our nervous systems into balance. Because at the moment we're just sympathetic nervous systems, like adrenals, like pumping. And that is the opposite of pleasure. That is the opposite of feeling that orgasmic energy. Stress kills pleasure.
Yeah.
End of story.
And people are addicted to stress.
Yeah. I know I am.
Yeah, same.
I really am. Like, yeah. It's a real, maybe that's the real pandemic is fucking stress, it's like, and at this time in our lifetimes, there's so much stress, even apart from the stress that we have on a day-to-day basis. There's like this collective stress and like what next, and the bloody government and all of these sort of things. And so it's the same with everything. When I'm coaching someone through pleasure or I'm coaching them through business, it's like, simplify everything, cut away everything other than what's right here in this moment. Breathe into the sensations, and that is where you will find your pleasure. It's where you will find your essence. It's where you'll find the direction you need to go with your business. It's where you'll find what's truly there as a block between you and your partner. It's all there. So that was a pretty long from orgasm.
And just from like my understanding, it's like, I think it's like an educational piece, right? Like we haven't been educated that like sex is something greater than just a physical thing that we do with another person, so we go into sex and there's just not education around it, right? So we go into sex, again, like you said, we're just chasing this climax, right? And our whole focus is just like on our genitals, which is like building all this energy that is orgasmic energy that we can move through our body and we can feel this pleasure in all parts of our body, but we just haven't had the education around that. And so we just leave the energy down here, like building and building and building. And this is what eventually, like there's so much energy that it has to go somewhere and it releases, then we orgasm. but this energy has so much more potential than just releasing energy, and it's like releasing tension or stress. So yeah, do you have any tips around like how people begin on that journey from like from evolving, or like moving from just having that regular sex to having like full body orgasms and tantric lovemaking?
Yeah. Again, I could go into the sexual side of things and maybe we'll get there, but I'd really like to just bring it back to simplifying, and that simplification would start with connection with the other or self. And that connection with the other or self is just like starts with an eye gaze. It's just, I don't even want to call it an eye gaze because people be like, oh, fuck, that sounds so hippie. But it's like, just sit with that person and just look them in the eye, because from what I hear from many women and men that I work with is like, when I say that, they're like, oh God, like that's really uncomfortable. We don't look at each other while we're making love. We barely look at each other when we're having an argument. And it's like, okay, cool. So if we can come back and just really just be with that other person without words, without laughing, without discomfort, if we can be with their energy and just let them see us and ask them to let our love in, let our hearts receive them, that's the place. Like if we're comfortable to do that, then we can move to the next step. And the next step might be like just like a hand on a heart, and just being sharing some gratitude for each other, or sharing some desires that are there. Maybe it's just like a gentle session of like giving and receiving touch, or playing with different sensations, like playing with smells, like senses, opening the senses of the body, just slowing down so much that we are here for the journey. Like we're actually just creating a journey every time we come into, for instance, if we're talking about love making between two people, can we just completely just let go of the end goal? Because that end goal is seemingly creating more stress in our bodies, and we're using it as a numbing tool. And it's like, you might think that you feel more when you're having a climax, when you're like in full screaming orgasm, but really, I know, in my body that sometimes it's like, there's that little mind there of like, please my partner, like, oh, this will make him feel so good. And it'll feel so good in me. Like, I don't want, I want that. But it's like, if I surrender away from that and I just, no, just let that be elusive, and let that even not be there for maybe a few weeks. Like, let's just both let go of our climax, of our ejaculation. And can we just be intimate with each other, and whatever that looks like? Because it seems like sex has become a thing to do rather than a thing to be.
I love that. That's what was coming up for me actually when you're speaking about that. It's like, can we just let go of this need to do and rush and stress like we do fucking everything else, and just have like sex as an opportunity to just be and explore and just be with the aliveness and like whatever is present in that moment.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think as much as there's so much hype around, the no fap stuff with men right now, is like, men need to stop ejaculating and men need to do this and men need to do that. I actually think it's very collective. I think that as women, often we disconnect from our pleasure. And then when we're having sex, like we might even not have a self-pleasure practice at all. So it's just like, I don't feel like sex at all. That's a numbness in itself. That's like us not wanting to go into the body, for the ego is telling us, if you go in there, you're going to find some shit you don't like. And it's not going to be, And so it's like, it's easier not to look at that. So I'm just going to be in my conscious mind. But it's like, yeah, can we, what I was getting at before was like, can we also follow that stream of just letting go of what things are meant to look like. You know, the ejaculation thing. Okay, let's stop ejaculating. Great. Now we go to the other end of the scale of shaming men for ejaculating. It's like, fuck, where are we? You know, we're just like always on the polarities, and it's for women, instead of being like totally disconnected and then, okay, great, now I'm just going to get myself drunk and throw myself at my partner and just really like go nuts on it. It's like, cool, how can I be with the delicacy of my own, you know, like pleasure? Because you'll always want to be different. I know sometimes in my sex, it's like I'm just in my just soft maiden heart, and I'm like, oh, just take it slow, and you know, we barely touch each other, and then other times I'm like, I just want to fucking ravage him, and you know, I want him to surrender to me, and so I like step into my, you know, my masculine darkness, and like I want to pillage that, you know, like, take everything, and it's like every love making session, I just want to invite anyone who's watching this to just let it be a journey, and just take away the place we're going to, and let's just look at all the flowers along the way. Let's just, you know, take our time. And I think as women in general, we have this thought in our mind that men only want sex for their own pleasure. But it's a real misconception, because men are these incredibly beautiful feeling creatures, just like women. And when men want to give love, they give it through their positive pole, which is their cock. And so it's like when we want to give love, we give love through our positive pole, which is our heart. And then we expect them to give love the same way, but it doesn't work that way. It's like, how can we let go of the idea that we need to be given love the same way we give it? And actually it will look so different. But you know, just that simple mind shift of, okay, when a man wants to connect with me, and it's different to like, you know, drunk one night stand, you know, she's hot, he's hot, let's fuck. It's like with your partner, if you're feeling, I know a lot of women come to me, and the sense is that, you know, my partner his sex drive is a lot higher than mine, and I don't know what to do about that. And I just don't feel like sex, and I feel like he just wants sex. That's all he wants. And so then I say, well, you know, imagine if you could understand consciously that when he wants sex, he wants to connect with you. He wants to love you. He wants to heal you. He wants to give himself to you, just like when he's hurting and you're like, honey, let me love you with my heart. You know? So I think that's a really important piece as well. It's just like letting that connection be there, whatever it is, whether it's sex or whether it's just intimacy, or even just the way we speak to each other on the phone.
Beautiful. Yeah, I feel like that in itself could sort of flow on to something else we wanted to speak about, which was like owning our desires, right? And like even more so than just owning our sexual desires, but like just owning our needs. You know, like imagine how much conflict could be avoided if we were all connected to our body, and we all could really drop into what we were needing or desiring in that moment, and we had the tools to be able to communicate that from our heart with love. You know, this is like something that I've been journeying with quite deeply lately, and I really think that that in itself could just change this world like crazy. I don't know if you have anything to add around that, you know, like I know there's a lot of our, especially our sexual desires, right? Those like primal urges that really get pushed into our unconscious, into our shadow, because this sex is still taboo, right, in this society, and we've been taught that it's not okay to have these primal urges, and that our bodies are dirty, and that sex is dirty. And you know, so there's so many like desires that are going unmet because people simply have so much shame around them.
So much to delve into there.
Really
about taboos and about, you know, I mean, something that'll be quite polarizing for people is, you know, the idea that Um, and this is something that Vic Breadbard talks about a little bit, and it's kind of where this came into my consciousness. But you know, when you talk about the primal urges, the deep taboos, you go even to the level of, you know, pedophilia, and it's like, yeah, great, we can shame that more, we can taboo that more if we want, or we could start to try to understand it, and rather than just shutting those people into a hole, like try to understand what's going on for them so we can work with that, so we can free them from their shame, and so we can understand. So yeah, I love that piece around, you know, we push things into the shadow when they're unconscious. But what if all of it was just to be allowed to be there? And I'm not saying that it should be okay to do those horrendous things to children, but if all of it's on the table, then we can all just kind of sift through it and just go, okay, like that stuff needs some work. We need to support that person, or you know, like those people, or that ideology needs to be, you know, moved into the light a little bit more, transfused with a little bit of love. And then this other stuff, this like all this light and love stuff over here, this is equally as bullshit. It's not as harming to little children, but it's equally as bullshit, because a lot of people live in this light and love and they never experience the true depths of their desire. And so then they have as much shadow as this person does. Sometimes it may not show up as dangerously, but it's equally as caging for the human existence, right? It's like, no, I only want to feel good, and I don't want to take on any bad vibes, and I you know, I don't like, you see it a lot with you know, I guess I want to say the Me Too thing, and like that's so old these days, but you know, that sense that, you know, men are takers and all of that sort of stuff. It's like, well, actually, how do we as a collective, as the feminine, hold our fucking power and go, you know what, like I have the same power that you have. I may not have the strength, but we have equally the same power. It just shows up in such a different way. We use manipulation and that kind of like sexual draw, whereas men use more strength and conscious play, I guess, with their minds. So there's so much to delve into here. But if I bring it back to something that's probably more relatable for the everyday person, which, you know, pedophilia probably isn't.
Thank you for going there, though. Like, it's such a taboo topic, right? And it is challenging to speak about. So yeah, and it's relevant. Like I was just saying to my housemate before, how, you know, anything, like if we're not being clear and we're not being honest with our true desire, then we're still playing in these shadow realms, right? And I was talking to her about like asking a guy on a date, and it's like, well, if I wasn't transparent and was just like, yeah, we should hang out again, you know, and wasn't transparent with my desires of why I wanted to hang out with him, then I'm just being shadowy, right? I'm not being fucking authentic and real. So it's like, and how many people do this? How many people are so afraid to just be like, hey, this is what I fucking desire, or hey, this is what I'm feeling, right? And like when we don't, like, yeah, we obviously probably not going to get our desires and our needs met, but two, you're not being real, you're not being authentic.
And there's a real fear that comes with that. I call it a real fear, but fear actually comes from like fear of death, and we carry fear in every fucking avenue. It's like, oh, I'm afraid I don't get to get my favorite magazine at the shop, it's run out. You know, it's like, fuck, fear, that's not fear. But where we hold this piece, I guess, what is it? Yeah, of like being disconnected from people. You know, connection is so important, and being accepted, because as children, you know, if we weren't accepted by our parents, then we weren't loved usually. You know, that's a generalization, but if we did the wrong thing, or we said something that was out of alignment with what our parent believed, then we are no longer loved just for that moment in time, probably. So then we learn as adults, like, I never want to go without love. So I'm always going to agree or say the right thing or, fit in. And so when it comes to owning our desires, even, this is something as simple as like boundary stuff. It starts with boundary stuff, like my desire is this, my desire is no.
Yeah.
But coming into actually speaking our desires, I remember, I want to share a little story here. I remember the first time I consciously spoke my desires was at a course called Awakening Men. And it was, some years ago now. And I remember on the last evening, it was like a 7-day retreat for women who were like working in the realms of sexuality with men. And the last night they brought in some men to sit with us and to be in groups. And we were essentially like practice working with them, right? And we had to go, so one of the exercises was speaking our desires and having the men speak their desire back to us. And it wasn't necessarily something that they were wanting of us. It was just a desire that we had in the world. Mm-hmm. And there was it was, oh my God. I just remember that so vividly because I was searching inside of myself, like, what is my, like, sexually, what's my real desire? Like, what do I even want? And I found it like quite challenging, and this guy, one of the guys who connected with me, he was this really interesting creature of a man. And he shared this piece around wanting to be put in a box and have people put their arms in and like touch his body and, just be, and I was like, fuck, like, wow, and in that moment, I just felt so much, I guess, realization that nobody speaks their desires. It's like, it's not a thing that, especially in the mainstream society, when we haven't delved into like any sort of conscious sexuality, or consciousness work in general, even just like going to yoga will help with this sort of stuff. But we just don't speak our desires. So an exercise that people could do at home is, once you get comfortable with actually just being with somebody eye to eye, just for a few minutes at least, would be like speaking your sexual desire or speaking any desire. But if we want to talk into sex, it's like, what is my, what's your sexual desire? And that, letting go of the attachment that needs to be about you or yours needs to be about them it's a pretty scary place, because most people are really, we're pretty deeply ingrained into monogamy. So it's like, if they can't get all of their needs met by me, then they're going to leave me. But, things like my sexual desire is to be taken without knowledge, in my home, and not know that it was you, and you bend over the kitchen bench and like not hear your voice, and just that would be like, oh, I can feel it in my body now. It's such an edge, stuff like that. And so it's like, great. And then hearing them say something back to you, and it, like, that in itself will build so much fire in your relationship. And yeah, there might be some stuff that needs to be navigated through, but people get really bored in their sex lives. So here's a place where we can just be like, that goes away. Boredom goes away when we start to just speak the desire. We don't have to do anything about it. It's like, okay, cool. If I want something from my partner like that, and he's like, fuck no, I'm not open to that. No way. It's like, okay, well, thanks for listening anyway, letting go of that attachment.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because that's what I was feeling into as well. It's like, even practicing, like by like even beginning, if there's fear around your desire, like fear of being rejected or not being received or not having that met, you could even speak that to your partner, like, hey, I really want to start speaking my desires more, but there's so much fear present around this one desire, because I really feel like you're not going to be keen on it and you're going to reject me. And it's like, that just opens up this like deeper connection already in this, like the start of the conversation. And then they can know that, like, even if they do want to reject you, that there's like, maybe they can do it like gently,
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always that conversation that can happen, like, hey, how would you feel about that fantasy I have? Or how would you, because sometimes it can look like, I've definitely shared things with my partner. It's like, I have a desire to maybe be with two men, and or maybe you walk in on me with somebody else or something like that. And it's like, noticing in my partner, just be like, oh, okay. And then that feeling for them of just being like, fuck it, I don't think I can handle that. And also like, that's fine. It's just so good to like get this out here, because I might not be able to meet you in that, but I can meet you in a fantasy play around that. And we can fantasy play that piece.
Yeah, that's so important to say, because it's so true. I think we get so fixated that it's like, this is my desire and like this is how it has to be met. But it's like with a need, there's like millions of ways to meet one need. When you drop beneath the desire, it's like, what am I actually needing from this? Like, and it's like my need for, like, say, nourishment or hunger, that can be met with like 1,000 different foods, right? And it's like, we need to let go of the attachment of like getting that desire or that need met exactly how we want it met, and sort of like compromise on how that's met.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's something else I was going to say in there. Yeah, I feel like something which is like a really good practice with this is like, well, I always say to my clients that, if you have like a lot of fear and you are quite passive, like even out of the bedroom, and you like find it really hard to speak like your needs and your desires out of the bedroom, then you're not going to have no hope in the bedroom, because that's when it gets like really vulnerable, right? So like maybe start practicing out of the bedroom. And one thing that just popped up before as well, it's like me and my housemates, like when we're sort of like offloading on one, like, if we get home, we're like, how's your day? And I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this or whatever. And it's like, we have like, it's just natural for us now to be like, what do you need? And it's like, yeah. And it's like, get beneath the story. It's like, what am I needing? It's like them basically saying like, how can I support you? And it's like, just, it's so beautiful to just get like in the habit of like having that sort of connection with your partner or with your, with your housemates or your best friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't know why that popped up.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful, important piece, because even just around anything, and this definitely plays out in the masculine feminine dynamic, in a man-woman relationship, or even actually any gender relationship, when somebody holds the more masculine and the more feminine, is like the masculine wants to fix, and the masculine wants to come in and like really help, and like make the feminine feel better, because he, the masculine energy, wants she, the feminine energy, to feel nourished and feel free and feel like she can, be herself. And so it's like, rather than, a lot of times we hear what somebody's going through and we're like, oh, you expect me to fix that? Like, we just unconsciously like, okay, I'm just going to fix it. But that piece you shared just then about like, what do you need? Because sometimes I might share something really heavy on my heart with somebody, and they might try and lean in and fix it. I'm like, fuck no, I don't want that. I don't want that. But if they can just say, hey, like, is there anything you need from me? Then I can go, actually, no, it just feels really nice to be heard. Or, yeah, I need a hug. Or, yes, I need you to pay for my, I don't know, whatever, coffee. Something like that. But
buy me lunch.
Yeah, buy me lunch to make me feel better. But it's just important that we don't try and, even when we're speaking desires, I might have a desire that I share with you. I might be like, Sarah, I want to, I have a deep desire to, do something with you. I won't go too graphic right now, but it's like, then you can come back and you can be like, cool. So what do you actually, like, what do you need from me? Do you need anything from me? And I'd be like, no, I just wanted to like let you know, and then you could be like, sweet, great, amazing, thank you. And that's all it's needed sometimes,
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Yeah, and it's funny, it's like coming into that piece around owning our desires. It's like we don't own it because we feel that we're going to, well, maybe there's shame around it or there's fear around that not being received and us being rejected. But essentially what we're doing is when we're not owning that and communicating it, then we're abandoning or rejecting ourselves, right? And it's like, it's just this mirror, which is like this big cosmic joke, really, isn't it?
It is. And like you said before, if you're not doing it outside of the bedroom, you're never going to do it inside the bedroom. And so for me, when I coach people around anything, business, sex, relating, it's like, cool, you're showing up like this in your business. You're a fucking powerhouse. You're doing so well. How are you showing up in your sex? It's like, oh, okay, cool. So there's some stuff there that like, there's, oh, I'm finding it difficult to say no. Okay, cool. Is that happening over here? Yes, it's happening over here. Okay, cool. Is that happening in your relationship? Yes, it's happening. So there will be threads that are happening everywhere. And it's like the way that we show up in one thing in our essence. It's like we may look like we're bossing it, but we're really bypassing probably a lot. We may show up as we show up in our essence across all things come into alignment, so it's like as I have better sex and better communication, I have better money coming in. As I have more open communication in my sex, I have better communication with my clients. As I have more ability to step into fantasy play and role play in my sexuality, then I'm able to transform into different things in my life and be really comfortable. And I guess for me, one thing I know about myself that isn't present with a lot of people that I know is just my comfortability with different walks of people. Like I can sit down and have a beer with a criminal biker, and then I can also sit with the Prime Minister and sip tea, and he probably does lines of coke more than tea, but but it's like that ability to just morph into different things and accept different things and take things as like, this doesn't mean anything about me. Just because I'm sitting here doing this thing with this person, that doesn't mean anything about me. I'm still me, and I can do all of these other things. And so just taking that into vibrating who we are across all boards, rather than being one person in this realm, this person in this realm, this person in this realm, because here's the shadow. This is why so many like powerful people have such shadowy shit around their sexuality. They're like such a force over here, and there has to be a balancing act. They've got to find the balance to it. And so if we can just balance all of the areas, bring our shadows to play, bring our communication to play, bring our role play, our fantasy, our desires, all of that into everything. It's like when we go into our business, into our corporate world, and we walk in and we're like, really desire for whatever it is. I really desire to call a board meeting right now. It's like some people are just like, fuck no, I don't want to talk about the thing that I'm going through, or I don't want to bring that to the table. I'll create too many ripples. It's like, no, like, how do we stand in our full transmission of who we are and what we do all the time across all boards?
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, it really does start with this, like, just being transparent, right? And because when we're trying to hide all this shit, when we've got shame around who we are, our desires, our sex, all these things, like, we're just creating walls to intimacy, and we're creating walls to everything else that we desire in life, right? Because we're trying to fucking hide. And it's like, we don't need to, when we can actually just own the fact that, hey, like, fuck, I'm feeling jealous now, I'm feeling shame around this, and I really just like want to speak it out. That's the magic. That's how it transmutes and transforms, right? And we can come back to love, and we can like just vibrate that truth in the world. But we can't do that until we own our shit, our desires, and like our fears, and the things that feel shame about and whatnot.
Yeah, the full range of ourselves. And I notice that myself. I even notice it while I'm talking to you here. I tend to go into that, like penetrative, like, here's what I'm delivering. I really notice that about, it's the way I do business. It's the way I just boss shit. But it's also what I deeply yearn to bring through in that is softness and my
Mm.
playfulness and my like, like my little dork, and it's like so yeah, just I mean, I guess I'm bringing that through because I was just noticing that was so void in me in this like interaction, but also, we're such a full spectrum
Mm.
of all of the things, and this is what gives our sexuality flavor, is allowing ourselves to be really fucking broken today and just, receive and just be, and not need to get to anything. And then tomorrow I come home from work and I feel really powerful. I just got to, something amazing happened and I just want to fucking give to you and conquer you, and then, just allowing ourselves, just allowing our full
Yes.
selves.
Yeah. That was such a mirror for me because I'm the same, just like boss it, and like have this like real warrior energy. And it's like I've been recently realizing that like that's not fully me. That's just what's kept me safe. Like deep down, I'm actually really soft and really feminine. And it's like having to remind myself like all the time that it is safe to be soft and it's safe to bring that forward, And it's like, how can we lead with that softness and that love, knowing that beneath that softness and that love is still this warrior, right? Our core is this like strength. Yeah, so that was such a mirror, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's a babe. It's like it's medicine for me because I get into my dark realms or my more embodied realms, and my more like you say, the warrior, the heart open warrior realms. It's like, "Rah, I'm here, like fire breathing, but from a place of love. And then you kind of like it exhausts us after a while, right? And you just
Yeah.
like, fuck, I need an escape. But the escape is in here. The escape is in like, oh, joy and play. You.
And
So,
pleasure.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm just like pretty conscious of the time, but before we wrap this up, just really wanted to come back to that point of like raising your libido, because I know we mentioned that before. If like, a lot of the time in some dynamics, one person in a couple will have like a higher sex drive, and and I know this is a big thing for like new mothers as well, because I'm in my early 30s. A lot of my friends are just having babies, and yeah, so if you have any tips for new mothers or just anyone that is just experiencing this like low libido and they want to like get out of that and raise that.
Yeah. It came through before. There's two pieces I think I'd like to share here. One is stress less. We remove stress and pleasure will come. But in that, I understand that like, okay, cool, I've removed all the stress. I'm sitting on the couch and I don't feel any turn on. It's like there's pieces to embodiment which bring about this presence to pleasure, and that's the breath, the sound, the movement, and the touch, and that can just be the self, So it's like even noticing right now how my breath is. My breath's pretty short because I'm speaking a lot, but it's if I just lengthen that, it just allows me to relax. And I can hear the tone of my voice changes as I relax.
Mm.
So I come into the sensations in my body, and then I allow, I might allow my body to move, just shake some stuff out, or like, just my head, let some stuff out of my head. Or I might get up and stomp around or whatever, and then just feeling the sensation of my touch just brings me into my body and slowing down. So if we can simplify this, it's take away stress, slow everything down, and just come into the moment, just let go. I know we've spoken a lot about that throughout the rest of the call, but just come into the moment. And then when the moment gets too much, it's like, oh, like, okay, this is my edge. Can we stop here? Can we just come back a little bit? Because I find if we're speaking particularly to women in this transmission, which I feel like we probably are, then we tend to not have safe containers for ourselves to really let go. So it's like, it feels like every time we enter into intimacy, it could end in penetration. And sometimes penetration is a scary concept. I mean, it is a scary concept. You're letting somebody into your body. Like, we think of it as a normal thing, but it's like, what? Like, somebody's going into me. Like, it's what? You know, it's like,
pretty invading, isn't it?
yeah. So I'd love to offer, people the ability to sit with their partner and go, hey, how would it feel to not penetrate each other, or me in particular, if that's your usual flavor? Can we just play like once a week? Can we just play without penetration? And what that does is it creates so much safety for the woman to let go, that she starts to come into her desire. And when she comes into her knowing that she's not going to be penetrated, she wants to be penetrated. She wants that more, because she's like, it's so safe for me now that, like, actually I might want that. So if you're the person, with said woman, whether you're a man, woman, whatever gender, and it's like you come and you share pleasure, but then you just draw back and you're like, so if you're the person wanting to bring around this woman's desire and her like, wanting of you, so can you come to her and can you offer her something without expectation or goal, and then just be like, hey, like, so take that and do whatever you like with it. So it might be like, oral pleasure. It might be just sensations of feathers on her skin. You might give her a massage. It might be just, whispering beautiful things in her ear, feeding her with a blindfold on, whatever it is. And then just being like, I love you. And that's it. That's all I need. I don't need anything from you. Because when a woman feels that the partner doesn't need anything from her, she wants to give more. She wants to, she wants to, it's magnetizing. But when we feel expectation from our partners, that's when we're like, oh, because it doesn't look that way for us. We're like, oh, I can't give you that thing. So we're just like, oh, that feels like clunky, and now I don't want it at all. And the other thing I wanted to share was new mothers. I think it's about really honoring your own body, but also taking the steps to just feel into pleasure that isn't necessarily fucking. Just feel into different kinds of pleasure. And, if there's partners watching this that want their new mother partners to, be able to access their pleasure again, it's like, take her away from all the stress. Take her away from the things that go through her mind, because when she's in her mind, she's not going to be in her body unless she's really fucking conscious around her sexuality, and most of us aren't. So, and there's different herbs that will like awaken and bring more blood flow to the genitals. So that's something that can really help. I mean, I definitely recommend those as a side option. But taking away the stress and sharing your communicative intimacy, like, going to the effort of just sitting with each other and seeing each other can sometimes be all that's needed to be like, I'm really actually fucking turned on right now, because it's been a long time since I've been seen. I've been mothering, I've been doing, I've been, businessing, whatever and it's like the feminine, to awaken, she needs to be seen. She needs to have somebody see her and be like, fuck, I'm here for this, and then she goes, okay. And then also, you don't expect anything from me and I want to give to you, so yeah. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I just find it so interesting because it's like that push-pull dynamic again, right? It's something that's been like really yeah, in my conscious field. But it's so true. It's like the expectations also kill intimacy or kill pleasure, because it's in the mind, right? And we're overthinking things, and we're like, shit, I can't give this to this person, or this person wants something that I'm not willing to give, and it's like, I'm going to put a barrier up, like I'm not going to go there at all because it feels scary. But yeah, I love that. Just dropping the expectations and just playing and exploring. It's the same as what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, there is a real push-pull, but I think the expectation piece often is our own expectation of ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
It's like we such and such expect, men expect this or women expect this. It's like, actually, no, because if you really just brought your truth to the table and was like, hey, I feel like you expect this of me, but can I ask if you do? Like, can you actually tell me, is that something you expect? Because 100% of the time, I dare say 100% of the time, the other person's like, actually, no, I don't expect that.
It's just a story, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So, and like I said earlier, that then when we communicate, the conscious mind, the masculine, can create the safe container for the body to just like let go. Okay, you don't expect that of me. Now I feel safe. Now I can feel. Now I can flow.
Yeah, beautiful. Cooler. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting into all of these magical topics. Just before we wrap it up, if there's anyone watching and that's really resonating with you and your transmission and your energy, and just, I know you spoke into it a little bit at the start, but if you want to speak into how people can work with you.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. Yes, I guess so, for sure. All of my offerings are on my website, and my website's pretty easy to navigate around. Do people still use websites? I feel like it's like it's getting to be pretty old school, but anyway, my website is zoeswain.com, and I do have quite a bit going on Instagram as well. I feel like there's some stuff that I share on different platforms that I don't share on the other platforms. So Instagram is at zoeswain.com, DOTCOM. People can find me there and just like send me a message. But basically, what I have coming up in the very near future, I'm pretty full for everything right now. I am taking just one-off sessions for women to feel into their sensuality or their business piece. Like if they've got blocks around the sex or sensuality or their business, then I'm taking just one-offs, but I don't have anything available for like journeys with me right now. And then in October, I have the Invocatress, the business portal, opening up for women. And also in October, just later on, I have Sensual Self-Mastery, which is then going to be a 6-month container for women to really journey deeply into their sex and sensuality. And and then I've got a heap of free stuff coming up. But basically, if anyone's interested, they can just go to my website, subscribe, or just go follow me on Instagram, and it'll all be there. And yeah, thanks for letting me
And
do
if
that.
anyone's watching that's down in Sydney or in Newcastle, we have the Enlightenment in the Bedroom tour happening. So I'm running that here on the Sunshine Coast this Thursday. And then I can't remember the dates of yours.
Yeah, so Newcastle is the 3rd of September, and I think there might be maybe 2 tickets left, maybe. And then Sydney, around about the same, and it's on the 5th of September. So Thursday night in Newcastle, Saturday night in Sydney. So
exciting. And
yeah, it's like the TED Talks of sexuality. It's fucking excellent that we're bringing this to Australia. I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
It's super exciting. It's like a fun educational event. So, if you're new to this world and you're a little bit scared of going to a workshop and having to, like share your feelings or whatever, then this event is perfect for you, because you literally just get to come, have fun, win some prizes, and really like hear some really inspirational talks. And it's an event for men and women. So yeah, come along, come play.
Exactly. And who wouldn't want to be a part of that? Like, I think everyone's just gagging right now to get outdoors and dress up and go do something. So yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Same. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the series. Enjoy the rest of your day, darling. Lots of love to you.
Thanks, love. See you later.